Hello.
Hello and welcome to Switchbox TV. How are you, Ronan?
I'm good. I'm good. We're very exciting to be live. My very first live show. This is very exciting indeed. How are you feeling, Sean?
I'm feeling good, thank you. I'm feeling good. I'm very excited. We are live in 3 minutes with the one and only Jake Burns. What is going to be the highlight of the interview? In your opinion, what were you most excited about, Ronan?
I'm excited to hear what he's been doing this year because it's been a funny year for everybody in the music business, and I think everyone's been doing things in different ways, and I'm quite interested to see what he's been working on and to see how he is as well because it's Christmas time, and I brought my I'm next to my Christmas tree.
What a beautiful tree that is. I mean,
Yeah,
God lighting up. I love it.
it's
Don't forget, guys, you can. Please do subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And thank you to all our subscribers that already have done this. We have been doing this Need to Know music show for near enough 6 to 7 months. It's a real platform to get up and coming artists and established artists like Jake himself to talk about their careers today, how they've gone through things, how they're trying to fix things. So it's been a very popular show, but we need your support. And the biggest way to support us is to press that subscribe button, or you can also donate with a super chat and a super sticker. If you look at the bottom left hand of your screen or right hand of the screen, you've got the button there to help donate. And anything we receive is more than graciously accepted, and we'd like to thank you, but you don't have to. Just please do make sure you subscribe, and I just want you to enjoy this content. um
yes, right.
Brilliant. So Ronan, talking about you, how are you finding the Need to Know music shows? Are you enjoying them?
Absolutely, it's been a fantastic thing this year because it's sort of the pandemic hit and we were kind of left without any live gigs, musicians like myself, and so for me to do something where I'm keeping music front and center in my life is so important. I've been chatting to musicians about music, which is just it's just fantastic. I've been putting people all over the world in different genres of music, and it's been a real eye opener for me, massive learning experience, and I've just been enjoying finding out people's different processes, and it's made me change how I'm planning to do things going forward. Um, but it's
Yeah.
great, sort of getting a chance to chat with someone like Jake, who's such a massively influential musician and such a massive part of the British and Irish music in the through the last 40 years. Um, so to get a chance to chat to someone like Jake is just an absolute pleasure. And we've had him on doing the stuff when we did the Artists for NHS at the very start of the pandemic, raising money for the frontline NHS. He came on and very kindly did a Q&A video for us then. And he also came on and
One of my most successful videos to
it really
date.
was. It really was. It really
What I
it
was
really it really
going for.
launched the Artists for NHS campaign for us, which
Yeah.
was such a fantastic cause. My wife's a nurse, so anything musicians could do to help them at work at this difficult time was massively appreciated. So people like Jake coming on and my brother Elvis Costello coming on as well. It was just fantastic to get the interaction from those guys
You're
because
just name dropping now, Ronan, aren't you?
name dropping there. Well, that was kind of what it was all about, wasn't it? We had
Yeah, so what
Josh
I would
Stone
suggest,
was on there as well. Who else do we
just,
have?
what I would suggest doing, guys, is if you've not once you've watched this amazing live broadcast that we're going to be doing in about 10 seconds, don't worry, you're going to get my face will be replaced with the one and only Jake Burns. But do check out our other videos. We've got lots of content on there. Two other pieces of content with Jake himself, and also we've got sport, music, and lifestyle in total. So I'll hand over to you, Ronan. You won't see me
Yes,
anymore. Best of luck, and I will see you on the other side.
lovely. Thanks, Sean. Right, so we have waiting in the wings, and hopefully he's ready. Seemed to be ready before, so hopefully this is all going to go smoothly. So if Jake, where are you now? If you can show us your video, turn your video on, and come and say hello. Can I do that for him? Can I get him? Sean might be helping me with this. Can I get him on? Jake, are you there? Here we go. Are you there, Mr. Jake Burns?
There I
am. How are we?
Fine, no.
Got
the miracles of modern technology.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm good. So how was America?
It's actually not bad today. It's a reasonable day out there today, but you know, it's the same as everywhere else. We're on sort of lockdown. I mean, you're doing the tier thing over there, aren't you? Where it's like it's different in different parts of the country, which is kind of weird. Here it's.
Go on, you're on lockdown.
Sorry, mate, go ahead.
Kind of. You're lockdown. Go on.
Yeah, kind of. It's it's the usual sort of essential services and stuff, but I mean it's weird things happening. Like I mean I'm quite a big football fan.
Yeah.
And I get to go and watch the football in a pub because I'd rather do that than watch it at home. Just because me shouting at the telly on my own, that's not going to make any difference. But I'm sure if I'm in a pub shouting with a bunch of mates, that's bound to make a difference. So the thing is, it's like they've now changed it so you can sit if a pub has like an outdoor patio or porch or something, you can sit out there and watch the football. This is Chicago in December. I mean, our game yesterday was like an Arctic monsoon was going on out there. It was unbelievable, and like idiots, we all turned up to watch it. It's like,
well, you see, who's the famous Newcastle fan who always watches it with his top off?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming he still does that. He's a braver man than I am. I'll tell you that for nothing. But yeah, so yeah, that was yesterday morning. We were sort of sat there, and it's like, you start complaining because I've gotten soft over the 16 years I've lived here, and at first I was like, I'm not going to stand out in the cold and watch the football. And I thought, that's what you used to do all the time, you idiot. You actually went to the ground and sat in the flaming cold and watched them. I mean, it's like it's the only difference is now somebody will bring you a beer, so that's actually better.
This is an improvement from where we were.
This actually is better. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it because, like I said, I've been softened up by 16 years of sitting in the warm.
So yeah, wasn't it the game was one of the games was cancelled through COVID as well, wasn't it? The team.
The boys got ill, but I was surprised actually that the team they put out yesterday. I honestly thought it was going to be decimated, but
yeah,
they did well. They won.
It's fantastic. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm an Everton fan, and we beat Chelsea yesterday. So that was always good because I'm sort of from the sort of area that Chelsea's in, so it's always good to see them lose.
Right. Well, again, it's not like you're going to run into many of them again because like nobody's going out these days.
You can say what you want. It's a completely safe space. But we've been asking for people for some questions for you, so right. We have some questions. And the thing about it, last time we sent you questions, we need the Q&A for us before. You got to choose which ones that you got to answer. Now you've got no choice.
It's no safety net.
No safety net. So we can ask you any amount of embarrassing questions. So no, they've been very good.
I might have technical problems again then.
Yeah, you're breaking up. You're breaking up.
So what? Who? What?
So what we got now? We've got. You need to ask Jake how he started out playing guitar thanks to Val Doonican.
Yeah, that might have been a joke I made in an interview some years back. But actually, there was a kernel of truth to it. I mean, obviously, I mainly started playing because I was a big Rory Gallagher fan. Rory was the main reason I picked up a guitar. But like you'll know, and like anybody who's tried to learn to play, you see these guys on TV and it all looks so effortless. They're just sitting there playing away, and
Yeah.
and when you pick particularly with your first guitar, which tends to be sort of some cheap and nasty thing, and the action on it is non-existent. So it's a bit like trying to play a cheese grater. It's like it really hurts. But again, when you're like sort of 13 or 14, it really hurts to push the strings down.
Does, yeah.
And I had the thing for probably about a year or so, and I was just totally discouraged with it. It was like, okay, it sat in a corner, and I just ignored it. And I mean, I really was on the verge of, okay, that's another. I'm not going to be George Best. I'm obviously not. I'm not going to be Rory Gallagher. Right? That's gone. And my mum was a big Val Doonican fan, and in those days, Val was on Saturday night TV like all the time. So it'd be on. It'd be on just in the living room, and I remember sort of with the usual sort of teenagers' disgust for anything your parents watched or listened to musically. I was just sitting there and go, God, this guy's he's hopeless. And the more I looked at him, I thought, he's this guy from Waterford. I mean, he looked like your favorite uncle, so your favorite uncle from Waterford in a parade of Christmas jerseys, even in July. And I remember looking at him going, if he can play the bloody guitar, I can. So there was an amount of inspiration there, but it was more a damn it. If he can bloody well do it, I can. So that was kind of part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was from Mark Hillary, who is a guy that I know. Mark actually, he lives in Sao Paulo now. He's from
very nice.
He's a half
very
English,
nice.
half Irish lad that I know from around London way, or from Ealing, but now lives out in Sao Paulo. So he just sort of listens to all his punk music and all the stuff that he loves, sitting in a hammock by his pool while the sun beats down on him. It's terrible. But,
I'm sure that's exactly how Joe Strummer envisaged it. I'm sure that's
exactly. We have Kelly DaCosta has come on and asked, what were your musical influences growing up?
Well, yeah, like I said, Rory Gallagher was the main reason I wanted to pick up a guitar. I saw T.S. did a farewell concert from. I found out subsequently it was actually from Queen's University. I thought it was from the Ulster Hall. My memory was playing tricks on me. And I would have been probably 12 years old then. Yes, 1970, so I was 12. And I was actually watching the football results. And the BBC or the ITV, whoever had filmed it, put the first half of the show on right after the football results. So as I was just about to leave the room, this noise started, and I literally stopped in my tracks and went, what's that? And came back and sat down. I mean, prior to that, I'd been buying. I mean, like any kid, I'd bought pop records and stuff. I mean, I was a big Motown fan when I was very young, just because they were fantastic pop records. I mean,
Yeah.
I still are.
Absolutely.
So but again, sort of the sharp vocal group in the smart suits and all the choreographed moves and stuff. There's no way on God's green earth I can see myself doing that. But you see this sort of scruffy guy in a plaid shirt and a pair of jeans playing a guitar, and I was like, I want to be that guy. That's who I want to be. So yeah, Rory was kind of he was the first. He was, like I said, it's the reason I wanted to pick up a guitar.
Yeah.
But like I said, it was 1970. So again, I mentioned earlier, anything that your parents liked, you instantly disliked, and vice versa. So it was, I basically bought anything that was loud and was going to annoy my folks. And luckily, I picked a really good time to do that, because 1970, I think I got Tastes on the Boards album as a Christmas present. And the first album I bought with my sort of Christmas money, if you like, was Led Zeppelin 2, which came out, I think, just around that time. So yeah, basically I was buying all these heavy metal records. I mean, Black Sabbath were huge for me when I was a kid. I loved them. And my parents just hated this. It was just noise, So yeah, anything that basically annoyed my folks was what influenced me, really.
So that's the answer. You were influenced by loud stuff that annoyed my folks.
I was just antisocial, basically. Yeah. I mean, but the other thing was, when a lot of my friends at the time were like 3 or 4 years older than me. So they'd already bought, they were buying these records anyway. So I was kind of precocious from that point of view, because really, I should have been prime fodder for glam rock and stuff like that. I was just the right age for that. But because my friends were a few years older, I was listening to to the slightly older stuff. So glam rock became my younger sister's preserve. That was her thing, you know.
That's probably helped you in the long run. Then maybe to sort of be more with the stiff little fingers sound would be your sort of your.
Well, yeah, I mean, and as a sidebar, there are quite a few embarrassing photographs of me with my hair down to my ass, but at least there are no photographs of me with makeup on. You know, so looking on the bright side. You know,
Could have been worse.
It could have been much worse.
No glitter platform shoes for you.
But, no, luckily not. No.
A guy who names himself Fingers John was asked about playing some lesser played stuff, and it sort of brings me on to has this year we've obviously there's not been any live music, so I think maybe there's been a lot more thought and everyone's been overthinking everything, but have you been thinking about going forward for when live gigs are back on, any sort of special plans for those gigs, and then maybe like sort of some lesser played stuff or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you know, it's very easy to overthink these things, particularly when you've got this amount of time on your hands. This conversation about playing lesser known tracks comes up all the time, and I've gone back through a bunch of old set lists, and you know, we have shaken it up more probably than people imagine.
Yeah.
When I look at the set list, the problem you have is that I mean, and it's, you know, many thanks to people like John, who are obviously, you know, dedicated supporters of the band who come regularly to see us. They're the ones who obviously get fed up with hearing, you know, Alternative Ulster and Suspect Device over and over and over again. But you've got to, and you'll know yourself, a live set is a balancing act to a large degree. And particularly for a band like ourselves that have a track record, you've got to play a certain number of things that people recognize, because again, there are going to be people there it's the first time they've seen you. And I understand that, you know, for some people, it's like the 200 or 300th time they've seen us, and you know, they are sick of hearing those songs. But if we play too many sort of obscure things, the audience get restless and they start shuffling their feet, and that translates onto the stage, and we start to get a bit nervous. I mean, you know, again, I mentioned I was a football fan, and I would imagine it's much the same if you're out on the park and things aren't really sparking, and the crowd sort of starts to turn on you, and I'm sure that the team pick up on that. Certainly the band do, and I do, being the guy up front. So it's difficult to try and balance the songs that, if you like, the sort of the hits, even though they weren't really hits as such, but the more popular, the more well-known songs rather, with slightly obscure things. And again, you know, I mean, it's not like we don't want to play them, because from a band's point of view, it keeps it interesting if you throw a curveball in now and again.
Yeah.
I mean, on the tour that we only got 3 shows in start of the year before the pandemic shut us down, but then we actually had in the set, I think, at least 2 songs that we haven't even recorded yet, which again is always a tricky thing to throw in, because people, you know, it's not so much that, oh God, I haven't played this in years. It's more, what the hell is this? And so we had 2 that we hadn't even recorded, and I'm fairly sure there was a bunch of stuff that, you know, we hadn't played live. And again, you know, there was definitely at least 1 song that we played that we thought would go down great, and was just dying a death every night. So, you know, again, as tours go on, you sort of go, okay, that just isn't working, and you know, you bump it, and because you're on the road, there's no real time to rehearse something else new up. So it's okay, put another favorite in, because we can play those in our sleep. I mean, obviously not that you approach it like that, but you know, you can.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had in my band, when we had the Bible codes going, we had a song which was a favorite that on the recording, and it just never worked live, no matter what we did. No matter how we tried to move it, it just never translated to live. It just died a death every time. And
yeah, we've got a couple like that, and it's really strange, because people are like, "Oh, I love that. You know, you should play it." And then you do, and they start and pick their noses and look at you, and you're like, "Okay, we won't bother with that anymore."
Play this one. No, do you know what? You don't want it. You don't want that one. You don't want.
Yeah, really. Yeah, honestly, no. Trust me.
Believe me, you don't want it.
It's for your own good.
It's a funny, isn't it? So sort of, there are certain songs which are just an anomaly, and there's no real. And
like you said, they work great on record, and people love them on the record, and yet you try and play them live. I have no idea. And you know, we've always tried to be a band that, you know, that haven't been sort of seduced by the studio and get involved in jiggery pokery. So we've always tried to sort of, if you know, if we can play it live, or sorry, you know, when we record it, we've always got one eye on how we're going to do this live.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you know, when you play it live, it might sound great on the record, but it sounds terrible live. To us, it still, that sounds pretty much like the record, and people still start and go, nah, it's just not doing it for me. Okay, fair enough. You know.
So I just wanted to say thank you to Kitty Girl, who has donated, because there is a super chat donation sticker thing going on. So it's fun for people to kind of get involved with this. So I just wanted to say thank you to her, and just to remind people that there is kind of like a sticker thing. You can, there's a whole interactive thing going on there on the YouTube, which is fun to get involved in. So thank you to Kitty Girl for that. But there was a message came through from Alistair Clifford Jones. So he says, talking of punk rock, would Joe Strummer have enjoyed the Salty Dog cruise, and was doing Wasted Life like on a cruise ship with a pool as a mosh pit? So this is the punk rock cruise that you did. What was
I mean, I know.
Yeah, so what was it like doing Wasted Life on the cruise ship with a pool as a mosh pit?
It was kind of weird, to say the least. I think I said at the time to the audience, it's like it's the least clothed audience we've ever played to. But yeah, I mean, the cruise ship, the cruise thing was actually a lot of fun. It was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. But that's because I'd been on a cruise before, but that was just a standard. And I think my wife won it in a raffle, so we went, and it was miserable. And so when the Flogging Money guys asked us to do it, I mean, my main reason for wanting to do it was because I'd toured, I'd done a solo backup to the Mollies and the Murphys over here. So it sounds like some sort of Hallmark mini-series, the Mollies and the Murphys. It's like, no, but yeah, and they were just lovely people, and we got on great. So they said, look, we do this cruise, you should come do it. And so, yeah, sure. So I mentioned it to the band, and they were like, yeah, absolutely, you know, particularly because the timing of it was great from our point of view. We'd just done, it was right at the end of a 6 or 7 week tour of America. So we were like just burned out. And the idea of just lying on a boat for 5 days was, yeah, I'm done. Let's do that, you know.
Where do I sign?
Yeah, really, you know. And, so yeah, I mean, so basically we just went and did the normal show. I think actually it was trimmed down a bit because we only had an hour as opposed to like 90 minutes. And on that tour, it was the anniversary of the first album, so we were playing the album in its entirety. So I think that's pretty much what we did. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit strange, but you know, I've always felt our material. It's only over the last few years that we've really started to be suited to festivals. I think because people now know the songs and they know that, you know, the band aren't particularly live. We're not as sort of serious as the songs might suggest. You know, there is there's an element. We realize that we're there to entertain people, is what I'm saying. You know, you're not just up there to sort of, you know, there's a serious political song, although they are. So it reminded me of nothing so much as years and years ago we did a festival in Guildford, and at the time, our stage outfits, we looked a bit like the Stranglers. Our stage outfits were all black. I mean, everything was black. And we were standing at the side of the scene. It was a glorious summer's day. It's a glorious summer's day. It was like bakingly hot. And we were standing at the side of the stage getting ready to go on. And the band before us were just finishing. And they were going down a storm. I mean, reeling it down a storm. And it was Bad Manners who were playing just before us. Right, so I'm standing there and I'm watching this 16-stone skinhead in a tutu dancing the can-can going down a storm. And I looked around at the other three guys all dressed in black and looking dour and miserable. I went, we're going to die on our arses here. So it's not going to work. You know, it's like, follow Buster dancing around on the stage, and they're all loving it. And then we go on and go, good afternoon. Yes, yes, miserable, dour. Yes, I get it. Yeah, okay. All right. You know, so it felt a bit like that. It was a bit, you know, the people that jumping about and having fun in the swimming pool, and we were going, yes, singing Wasted Life. I get the dichotomy. Yeah, I get it.
Well, I mean, Bad Manners, my old drummer from the Bible Codes used to play with Bad Manners. So we lost Carlton just gone 3 years, just 3 years ago, and Buster came to the funeral. We did basically a gig for the sort in the pub on the funeral day, and we sort of had a mixture of all the Irish musicians and half of Bad Manners, and it was just it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But he's a character and a half, any Buster. But the stories we heard about him over the years, Jesus.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of my best mates in the music business is Nick Welsh, who was the Bad Manners bass player for many years. And yeah, I mean, I've told him that story. I don't think he was with the band at that point, but I've told him that story. And I said, just one band that we just refused to follow. I've got the world's. I've got a lot of faith in Stiff Little Fingers as a live band, but there are some bands you just go, I'm not going on after them. It's just not going to happen. Mary Black's a totally different proposition. We used to do a lot of flaws and things like that, and that would be the first question we would ask is Mary Black doing it? And go, yeah, can we go on after her? And it's, again, no disrespect to Mary, because again, she's a fine musician and her band were all great. But they're the total opposite of Bad Manners. I mean, they're very they're very pretty, beautiful songs, and they're wonderfully played. But they are a bit soporific. So and particularly again if it's a nice warm day, it's like the audience would sort of start to not drift off, but they're all relaxed and calm, and yeah, it could be a bit sleepy when we went on. So really, all we had to do was go 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, and the audience were on our side. It was like great.
You come in like a defibrillator. God, go.
Yeah, exactly.
Clear.
Exactly. And like I said, no disrespect to Mary or her band. No.
Fantastic. If you could pick one of your gigs, what stands out for me was the 2007 Newcastle, slightly written with some autocorrect, I think, here. But if you could pick one of your gigs that stands out, I think you said, for me, it was the 2007 30th Newcastle gig. So I was asking you, if you pick one of your gigs that stands out in your mind, apart from following Mary Black at the Flower, what would it be?
I mean, there are so many of them over so many years, obviously, but it kind of becomes a no-brainer. The one that really stands out is the first Custom House Square show we did in Belfast, which was the band's 40th anniversary. I mean, apart from for a number of reasons, but apart from the fact that none of our wildest dreams did any of us think we were going to be doing this for 40 years. I mean, it just it wasn't on the agenda. And to do it in your hometown in front of like 5,000 people was fantastic. And again, to have, to ask friends who you'd made over the years to come and play on the same bill, and they all said yes, was great. So much so that we did it the next couple of years. I mean, we had that first night, we had the Ruts and the Stranglers and the Outcasts, one of the original bands who started at the same time as ourselves, all come and play. And there was just such a wonderful atmosphere there. And it was nerve-wracking as well, but for all the right reasons. I mean, we wanted to get it right. We didn't want to screw it up. And all the bands prior to us had gone down great. The audience were obviously just there to have fun. There was definitely an air of celebration about the place. And so we're in our dressing room. We're all changed. We're ready to go on. And the door of the dressing room flies. It was just a porta cabin thing. It flies open, and it's our tour manager, who's also our sound engineer, who at this stage should have been at the sound desk way at the back of the 5,000 people. So what the hell he was doing? He opens the door and he goes, "Stay where you are. The monitor desk has blown up," and runs off. We're like, what? We're literally just about to go on. Like, what? And so somebody else came in from the post office and said, "Look, looks like you may not be able to do it, lads. Well, you go and tell them. I'm not going out there in front of 5,000 people and telling them that we can't do it." It's just,
oh my God.
So yeah, that was fun. So when somebody had said to me afterwards, said, "Yeah, it didn't look like you really enjoyed that. You looked terrified when you came on." I said, "I didn't know anything was going to work." I mean, it was like, that was what we were sent on with the ringing endorsements. They came back and said, "Well, we think it's working, but we don't know for how long. On you go."
Good luck, lads.
Yeah, really.
Enjoy yourselves.
Really. Yeah, really.
I just want to say thank you to Dave Hipperson, who's made a donation as well. So say the donation is just going to Switchbox to try to keep us afloat. This channel was set up by people who lost their jobs due to COVID, and myself as a musician. So no live gigs. So they just wanted to say thank you for those people who are who have subscribed and to the channel and to try to help us. And obviously, thank you to Jake for joining us to help to build the platform for the young musicians that we are trying to help coming up. Just a little bit of housekeeping there. Sorry, Jake.
That's all right.
We've had a question here from Justin Music is Loud. So sounds like this kind of,
there you go.
Sounds like the right kind of guy.
He's on my. We're singing from the same hymn sheet. Yeah.
What motivates you to keep playing with SLF, and how long do you feel you can keep playing live gigs?
Yeah, well, obviously, again, as we mentioned quite a bit, your mind has been focused a lot this year, and it kind of feels like I know it's a lost year for everybody, but it kind of feels even more so when you get to this stage of your career, from my point of view, anyway, because you do mentally start putting a limit on how long you think you can do this for. I mean, obviously, there's no prescribed time limit on it. You could probably keep going till you dropped, and you may have to if my mortgage is anything to go by. But I mean, I think mentally I'd kind of told myself I'd do it. And again, it sounds weird to say it out loud, but I'd do it till I was 70. And I mean, I'm 62 now, 63 in a couple of months, so that's like another 7 years or so. And then you tell yourself that. Again, I still feel physically, I feel okay. I think we're playing as a band. We're playing better than we ever have done. I'm certainly singing better than I ever have done.
I was going to say to you, when I saw you playing in London, was that last year?
Yeah,
the year before. When was it last year? Anyway, when I came to see that last time,
right.
And your voices sounded fantastic. I have to say, the band sounded great. They sounded so fresh. I mean, it just sounded like it was. There was no sign of any kind of dip in your abilities as a band or your abilities as a singer. So I just wanted to, that's so. If that's anything to go by,
that's very kind of you.
Then
Yeah, well, that's very kind of you. I mean, I think it's because we are actually still. I think a big thing is we're all still friends, and we actually enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy doing it. I think that's a big part of it, And like I said, I feel fine within myself. So even though I'm saying, you'll stop then, I still think that as long as my voice holds up and as long as I feel comfortable doing it, I think it's just 70 is just a mental barrier as well. I mean, it just sounds ancient, to be honest, and it sounds faintly ridiculous to say you're in a punk rock band when you're going to be 70 or whatever. I mean, I'm not harping on about it too much, but I've been doing some of the little acoustic side things. I mean, I mentioned I went out with the Mollies and the Murphys on my own. And I'd done things. I mentioned Nick Welcher. I did. That was how I met him. Was doing a Three Men in Black side project with him, JJ from the Stranglers, and Pauline Black from Selector. And I enjoyed that a lot. And then did a second one of Dead Men Walking with Kirk Brandon and Seggs and Ruffy from the Ruts, and probably enjoyed that even more. So that's the sort of thing that you could see yourself doing after sort of Stiff Little Fingers hang up their touring boots. Yeah. But like I said, at the moment, it's just a little thing that I've said to myself, is that 70 seems like a reasonable time to be possibly stopping. Of course, I could either fall down and break my back in the next couple of weeks, and that's the end of it altogether. But it's just a off the top of my head thing. There's nothing set in stone.
Excellent. I've got just to go to the other end of the age scale, we have Isabel has asked, "Hi Jake, do you have any advice for teenagers such as myself who are hoping to form punk rock bands and write music for activism purposes?"
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the main thing, and you'd say this to anybody, no matter what style of music, and is have fun. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, and there's no point in doing it if you're not enjoying it. So first of all, have fun with it. There's no shame at all in sounding like your heroes, because that's where your influences are, and that's going to be a big part of who you are and what you are. For the longest time we were labeled the Irish Clash, which at first we thought was great because we were all huge Clash fans. Eventually it becomes a bit of an albatross around your neck when everything you do gets compared to another band. But initially there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all, because that's what you're in, that's what you like, and that's what you're into, and that's why you're doing it.
Yeah.
But that leads me on to what's probably the main piece of advice I would give anybody that's thinking of doing it seriously, and that is, as soon as you possibly can, to find your own voice. To write about things that you care about, to write about things that matter to you, to write about things that you know, most importantly. And I think that's when you'll probably start getting the most satisfaction and joy out of what you do, because then you are creating something that's completely your own. Your influences will still be there; they'll always be there. But finding your own voice, I think, is probably the most important thing. With regards to the practicalities of actually moving forwards and getting shows and establishing yourself, I honestly wouldn't know where to begin these days. I mean, the internet has changed the music business completely. So, I really don't, I don't know where or how you would move forward there. As a teenager, you probably know more about it than I do. So,
Well, I think from the point of view of finding an audience is never been tougher in terms of a band starting out trying to find audience, because there's obviously so many people releasing music because you can self-release and all that kind of stuff. So it's that from that point of view, it's tough. But also from the other side of things, it's never been easier as far as social media. There's never been easier to get your stuff out there. It's just how you find the right people is the hardest thing. But certainly connecting. So, I mean, I would say. Yeah, I'd say, as you said, she might know more about, but certainly using social media and stuff like that is a great way. And certainly Jake's some brilliant advice there about finding your own feet and finding your own voice. Fantastic. And Sarah Sutherland asks, it says, please ask Jake, if he hadn't been a rock and roll legend, what would he have done instead? like that's on your job description.
It was just what my careers master said to me at school.
What are you going to be? I'm going to be a rock and roll legend, if that's right with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. Where do I sign up? I honestly don't know. I mean, it's that's actually, there are certain things you wake up at night in a cold sweat and panic about. That is actually one of the things that does that to me, because it's only when you look back on it you realize how much of your career is based on sheer dumb luck. And if you hadn't have been in this place at that time, if you hadn't have met that guy at that time, if you hadn't have done, if you'd done this gig instead of that gig or whatever, and yeah, I mean, I was kind of drifting really before the band took off. I had a job, but it wasn't anything I was particularly married to or even liked. I was working as an accounts clerk in an engineering firm in Belfast. And I've often joked about this. It's only in Ireland could I get a job working in an accounts office when I've managed to fail my math O level 4 times. Seriously, I never even passed the math O level, and they give me a job in an accountancy office. So there was no way. Eventually, I was going to be found out and fired. I mean, that was only a matter of time. So I really don't know. I really only had the one burning ambition, and that was to be in a band. So had that failed, I really have no idea what I'd have done. And again, living in Northern Ireland at the time, I know UB40 famously wrote the 1 in 10 song about the unemployment statistic in the UK in the late 70s. In Northern Ireland, it was 1 in 3. So, if you had a job, you bloody well held on to it,
Yeah.
So.
But it's a good job you're a rock and roll legend after all.
Exactly. So. I'm glad that vacancy came up.
So yeah, do you want to say thanks to Alistair Clifford Jones for his donation and his question earlier on as well. So he was the one that asked about the cruise. So thank you to Alistair and just we are trying to get through all the questions, so bear with us because there's been a lot of response to this. So I do apologise if we don't get to yours, but we are trying to get through as many as we possibly can. But we have a question here. How do you feel about the Hope Street album and tour? I feel it was a huge turning point in terms of another huge leap forward. This is from Simon Price.
Yeah, I mean the Hope Street record itself, I was very pleased with and very happy with. The problem was at the time, I mean, we'd kind of been out in the wilderness for a while with regards to major record labels and stuff. I mean, we'd done a couple of things with independents. We'd been with Chrysalis for years, and then obviously the band split up and stuff. And when we reformed, much like there was no real enthusiasm from the touring establishment for the band coming back. I mean, we found promoters weren't interested, venues weren't interested, and it was just basically it was Midland Concert Promotions, a guy called Tim Parsons, who used to promote us back in the day, who took a risk on it, and he told me himself. He said, "I just did it for old time's sake because I'd had fun on those tours earlier, and nobody expected it to be a success, and it was." But we still couldn't get arrested by a record label, so we did a couple of indie records, and then we had a friend got himself a job at EMI, and he wormed us through the back door again, and so we got re-signed. We got signed to EMI, but again, to show that they had no real enthusiasm for it either. So we were actually making this album, and the guys from EMI came down, and they just wanted us to sign the thing because they basically wanted to repackage another greatest hits album, and so they were basically giving the new album away free with it. That was the amount of enthusiasm they had for the new record. And they came down to the studio, and we were sort of expecting them to come in and listen to a couple of tracks or whatever. No interest. Did not even leave the lounge of the studio. So signed the contracts, got back in the cars, and drove back to London. So we kind of knew that even though we were on a major label, we had our pal Alan in the company, and he had managed to get another guy, Steve Wolf, on our side. So we had two guys in there fighting for us, and nobody else cared. So I think that might be why that tour particularly lives in the questioner's memory, because I think we'd suddenly gotten a bit more of the it's us against the world spirit about the thing at that point, and that might be why that tour stands out. I do remember again it being a particularly successful tour from the point of view of we had a lot of fun on it, and again it was one of the tours where we did throw a lot of new material in as well. But again, we felt the material was strong enough. So yeah, I mean it was a turning point from it was the first album back on a major label. They had a bit more belief in us for the next one, and so things did kind of improve from then on.
But maybe it was the sort of the tour and that you sort of felt like you were proving yourselves. And then,
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there was definitely an element of it felt a bit like when we did the Infallible Material tour, where we'd been turned down by every major company in the country at that point as well. And it was just Rough Trade took a chance on us. Otherwise, that album wouldn't have seen the light of day, and the band would have finished there and then. We did the Tom Robinson tour supporting them, and we honestly thought that would have led to a contract because we were getting fantastic reviews, and I think we'd already been on the front cover of at least one weekly magazine. I think it was Sounds put us on the front cover, and we still couldn't get any interest from any major label. I mean, when you know that the record was a success now, it seems ridiculous looking back on it. Yeah. But I'm sure if you went back and looked at the front covers of those magazines, you'd see a load of bands and go, "Who the hell are they?"
Yeah. Well, this is the problem. It's like this was the problem with the old business. It was kind of like there were these guys who were the kind of the arbiters of what was good and what wasn't in the business, and they kind of made or broke careers, and bands. And
absolutely,
as you say, there's so many great bands would have never have seen the light of day because someone in the label didn't like them. Whereas now maybe there's the door is more open for people now because the labels haven't got so much power.
Yeah, well, also vice versa. I mean, there were so many. I know so many, and I'm sure you do as well. So many phenomenal players and so many great bands that just never got that break. Because they came up against the attitude I just mentioned, where it was like the record labels would turn up, stand there for 5 minutes, and go, nah, walk out.
Yeah, so many average bands that got so much support they should never have done as well.
I'm knocking down that road. I'm not going to.
I'm going to lure you into some tabloid headlines there, Jake.
Yeah,
well dodged, well played. Yeah. Andy Collins asks, how many songs have you got for the new album, and will we be able to support it with crowdfunding?
The crowdfunding thing, I don't know, because obviously Pledge Music was fantastic for us for both the No Going Back record and the live DVD and stuff. But obviously that's gone the way of All Flesh at the moment. Yeah. And that was a great model, and it definitely worked for a band like ourselves, who've been around for a while. And it was. I also really enjoyed it from the point of view of the audience getting involved right from day one. I mean, even if it was just something as simple as just basically pre-ordering the album, even though we hadn't recorded it, it basically what it came down to was a pre-order in a record. But there were some other, sort of great things that came out of it. One in particular was we actually put this in for a laugh. We didn't think anybody would do it. One of our managers has long worked in the merchandising side of things. And he said, you need to have a high ticket item. He said, it doesn't matter if nobody buys it. You just need so you start the list with this, really expensive thing. And we're like, well, like what? We're a punk rock band. It's not like, we can't sort of offer, you can't offer to give away one of the guitars. We bloody need them, So he came up with this ridiculous idea that, and I can't remember, it was a sizable amount of money. It was like 3,000 quid, I think, or $3,000. And you came and went drinking with me for a weekend in Chicago. That was the prize. And we thought, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. And this guy did. And he's a lovely guy. Because Ed. He's originally from the Midlands, but he lives in Cardiff. And he came over. And not only did we have the weekend sort of going around clubs and pubs in Chicago, but we actually became really good friends, and we're still friends today. And it's like he comes to all the shows and stuff. And it's like, so I mean, it had a really nice knock-on effect, from that sort of thing. The number of songs we got written that varies according to how confident I feel in them. At the moment, we're definitely more than halfway there. And again, I think this comes down to what we were saying right at the start of the conversation, Ronan, which is, you overthink things because you got too much time on your hands. Yeah. And there are probably songs that I'll go back to and go, you know what, that probably is okay. But for now, I'm sort of going, no, it's not good enough. And a perfect example of that is on the last album. There's a song called "My Dark Places," which I had decided wasn't good enough. I wasn't going to put it on the record, and it was Ali, our bass player, came to see me, and actually at the time, Ali in our downtime, Ali would tour manage other bands, and so I got an email from him saying, "I'm going to be in Chicago on Thursday night. If you fancy meeting up for a drink." So I assumed that he was coming through with another band and they had a night off. So yeah, absolutely, yeah, of course, So I met up with him, and we had a couple of beers, and it was about second or third beer. I said, "Well, who are you here with?" Expecting him to say he was touring something. He said, "Oh, nobody. I just came to see you. I need to talk to you about that My Dark Places song." And I said, "Well, you could have done that on the phone." I mean, he lived in New York at the time. Like, you didn't have to fly for 2 hours to come. And he said, "No, I need to talk to you about that. It's too good a song to throw away." And I thought, well, if he's actually taken the time to get on an airplane and come all this way, maybe I should go and listen to that song again, and it turned out it's become one of the most popular songs, not just on the record, but that I think I've been responsible for, simply because it was obviously written about my struggles with depression, and it seems to have had a positive effect for a lot of our audience. Well, so but that's what I mean about overthinking things. You get too much time. You can take something that turns out to be actually this is a really important, not just good song, but it's an important song from the band's catalog point of view. I really, and I would have slipped through the cracks otherwise.
Well, that's my go-to SLF song when I want to stick some of your music on. That's the first one that goes on. And I mean, I've had my issues with depression too, and we talked about this in the last interview that we did, and it's actually Sean asked me the question. We did a little pre-match build-up at 4:00, and he asked me that exact question: what's your favorite song? And that was it. And it's a very personal song for me. I really get a lot out of that, and as you said, it's something that a lot of people would have maybe had those issues in 2020, were struggling with mental health, and it kind of ties in with the last question actually, because I had a very up and down 2020. I had some ups and downs in my mood, and I'm just wondering, how is it hard sometimes does that affect your songwriting and song choices and all that kind of stuff? I find it would be quite hard to work out which songs might be good if you're still in that moment. Do you know what I mean? That you're almost too close to some of them.
Yeah, I think that's a constant anyway for any songwriter, is that you are too close to it, but then equally, well, I am anyway. I'm always reluctant to play new material to anybody. It's because, probably because I'm too close to it, but it's also at that stage I don't really have. I've either got too much confidence in it or I don't have enough confidence in it. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I mean, it's like if I've got too much confidence in a song and I play it to somebody and they don't like it, you think, oh shit, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was. Or if I don't have enough confidence in it, then I just don't want to play it to them anyway. So it's kind of a lose-lose from my point of view, playing new material to anyone. Yeah, I mean, the other thing as well about the whole depression thing and how it affects your approach to work. I find that sort of when I first encountered it, I didn't know what it was and I didn't know how to deal with it, and I just threw myself into work. I mean, I just accepted everything that came along, and that I equated that with helping, just because it took my mind off. You know, I didn't have time to sit and fester, basically. But now I know what it is I'm dealing with. It does work for me if I get up and I can sort of feel, and I know everybody refers to it as the black dog, but if I can feel that starting to descend on me, and if I can sort of make myself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and go lock myself in my studio, if I get half an idea and I can immerse myself in that, then even if it doesn't turn into a song, that's still a day well spent, because it's dragged me out of where I was headed. And sometimes it does actually result in something worthwhile, Yes. I don't know if that's any different from when I don't feel miserable. I'm using the depression as a spur to work sometimes,
Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's we've got Scratch Patterson. He's got to be a punk guy from the old days, isn't he? And then Scratch Patterson. He sounds like he's a Belfast or a Glasgow lad. What's your We've got to have a few quick fire questions here for you actually now, because
sure.
I don't want to keep you all day. We've got a little bit amount of time left, so we want to try and get a few questions in now. What's still your favourite track to play live, and what's your favourite venue?
Favourite venue is easy. That's Glasgow Barrowland. I mean, that's that's a given. I mean, we've always had a fantastic relationship with the people of Glasgow. They've always been so welcoming to the band, and right from when we first went there, like I said, we were opening for the Tom Robinson band at the old Glasgow Apollo, and all the way around the TRB's road crew had been just trying to terrify the new kids, and succeeded 9 times out of 10. But yeah, the Glasgow show was like sort of, you'll know you've done a gig there. You might be going down well. You might go down well in Manchester, but you wait till you get to Glasgow. It's like, if they don't like you, God, they'll let you know. We were petrified going on, but luckily they liked us, and it's been the same ever since. I mean, they've been a fantastic audience for the band to play to all these years. So Glasgow Barrowland is and it's such a fantastic venue to play anyway, particularly for a band like ourselves. We've got like 1,900. 2,000 people all on the same level. I think that's what really gives it its magic, is that it's so egalitarian. It's like there's no balcony, there's no different levels. It's like it's all on the one floor,
and it moves.
We're all on the one.
The floor moves.
I mean, I don't know if they've closed. I don't know if they've locked the springs down, but yeah, it had a sprung dance floor. And obviously this was, I think we talked about this before as well. This was designed for people like the orchestra your dad used to sing with. It was designed for people like Joe Law's orchestra, because people were supposed to be waltzing and foxtrotting to this. There weren't supposed to be 1,900 drums bouncing up and down at the same time. So it's like, I think I mentioned again that the stage is just scaffolding on this, so the stage is going as well. So you can see the PA starting to move. And the microphone particularly does this. It doesn't go up and down. It goes back and forward.
Hits you in the face.
So you find yourself, you have to be a bit like the centre forward timing the header to come in and get the microphone right, and then you have to move with it when you're playing. So yeah, Glasgow. Favourite songs to play? That changes. Of the old material, I've always loved playing Just Fade Away, just because it's a really nice little guitar part to it. So that's always fun to play. And then we just get into it's what every songwriter will tell you: the best thing they wrote is the most recent thing they've written. And so if we've got a strong new song in the set, that's always the one that I prefer playing. So
Yeah.
on the most recent tours, the song that I've enjoyed playing most is a song called 16 Shots, which was written about the sort of the murder of a young man by the police force here in Chicago, and it had it had everything that's always inspired me to write a song. I mean, my sense of justice was just outraged by what had happened to this young man, and just the sheer tragedy and the pointless waste of it. And again, the song pretty much wrote itself. And I mean, those, again, as a songwriter yourself, you'll know those are generally the best songs. They take as long to write as they take to play almost. It's everything just came straight out. Yeah. And so playing that song, and I've also been, heartened by the fact that although it's a very Chicago specific song, because we take the time to introduce it on stage, audiences around the world react to it exactly the same as an audience here reacts to it. It's like they get the anger, they get the injustice, and they get the song. So that makes it. So yeah, that of the recent tours, playing 16 Shots would be my favorite song. Glasgow Barrowlands would be my favorite venue.
Fantastic.
Quick fire question, long fire answer.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Just want a quick thank you to Carolyn Parry and for Skulls Designs for donations coming through there. So thanks, guys, for everybody that's interacting as well. Thanks so much. It's brilliant. This is our first live Need2Know music show, and it's great to see there's so much interaction and questions coming in and people coming in. What have we got here as well? We have... actually, I wanted to ask you one of these actually before we could move on, because there was one of these that came in before. This is it. If you could choose any band, past or present, to open for you, who would it be, and from what era of their career and why? So not going to be that fast, not that quick fire, but here we go. three shots.
Not U2.
Didn't
just so that I can keep just so I can keep it, so they never supported us. Even though they're nice guys. That's a tricky one, because we've had some amazing bands open for us. Again, the longer our career's gone on, the more bands that either were contemporaries or that I was a big admirer of have started putting them, either reformed or have come back and started wanting to play. So I mean, again, it's difficult. If I pick one band out now, all the others are going to go, well, what about us? I thought we were mates as well. Yeah. But I loved it. I loved it when we toured with the Ruts. I mean, I've always been a big fan anyway, and they're also just such really nice people. And I used to stand and watch them most nights, which again, so generally I don't get time to go and watch the opening act. But it's just, I could sit and watch Dave Ruffy play drums all day. It's just so effortless, But if you get like a dream band, you could pick. And it's a band I would have loved to have played with as well. It's Jason and the Scorchers. I love that band. And particularly around sort of the what would be referred to as their EMI years. So around the time of sort of Lost and Found and the album previous to that. Of course, the name escapes me now. One of my favourite bands. I can't remember the name of their record.
That's a little trick your brain plays in you, isn't it? Every now and again, yeah. But,
absolutely. I could probably sing every note of it, but I can't remember the name. I can't remember the title of the album. Jason and the Scorchers. The trouble is, though, I've seen them play back. I mean, and they're another one of those bands you watch them and go, really don't fancy going on after these boys. I really don't. And that's the problem. It's like you ask somebody sort of who would you love to have had open for you, and you invariably pick a band that you love, but equally then your brain's going, yeah, I'm not sure we can follow them. So, but yeah, so those would be that would be the answer. Would be Jason and the Scorchers.
And Brian Baru asks, I don't think this is the. He asks,
I think that might be a pseudonym. I
don't think it's the real one.
Who
does Jake think of contemporaries like Joe Jackson? What does Jake think of contemporaries like Joe Jackson and Gary Newman? Did he like any of their music then?
I love Jackson. I thought Joe Jackson was fantastic. And I mean, obviously, in terms of musicianship, Joe was streets ahead of what we were doing. I mean, I'm not sure if he actually went to the Royal College of Music or whatever, but he was, I think he has that sort of a background. But a great live performer, fantastic singer, great songwriter. Gary Newman was kind of I had a bit of a mental block with, just because I was never a fan of anything that was synthesizer based. It just felt a bit soulless to me, which is probably unfair, because I'm sure. I mean, the one writer I did like at that time was Vince Clarke, who at the time was with Depeche Mode and then went on to do the Yazoo and Erasure stuff.
Yeah.
Because I could hear the pop songs in there. I could hear the songs. Whereas with Gary, it just seemed to me like it was a synthesizer riff and some form of singing. And I hate criticizing other musicians, because I know how difficult it is to do what we do. But it just didn't move me emotionally, I think, and that was the problem I had with it.
Yeah.
I know loads of, he should care. He's probably laughing all the way to the bank, you know. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's like I'm the same as anybody else. There are bands I like, there are bands I don't like, and music is such a personal thing, but it's also such a visceral thing, and it's such it hits you on an emotional level, and you know you can't just go out of your way to like something just because it's popular or other people tell you should do. You know, it's just not. Some things are not to my taste. You know.
And we have Russ Brown from The Tune asks, if you had to up sticks and leave Chicago for good, the next place you live you can't leave, where would it be?
That's interesting. Because again, much like you're sort of looking at when you'd call it a day, you also start looking at where would you like to eventually retire. And it's a conversation that my wife and I have started to have. I don't know really. I mean, I'm drawn to the idea of small town America, just because I like that. But then I've got a feeling that much like Chocolate Box England, it doesn't really exist. I think that small town America, it exists in like the Andy Griffith Show or whatever, but it doesn't really exist in real life. And what little I've seen of it recently, particularly with reactions to like the Black Lives Matter marches and stuff, it doesn't seem like a particularly appetizing place to be. So I don't really know. I'm not one of those people that feels he needs to, retire to the sunshine forever. Yeah. So,
retire to maybe retire to a constant cruise around the Caribbean.
No, see, that wouldn't have pleased me either. Again, it's one of those things. You have these romantic notions of work. I've equally often thought about somewhere in the Highlands of Scotland would be wonderful as well. But then you think, what happens when you fall and break your hip, you jackass? It's like, that's probably not the smartest idea in the world to be miles away from the nearest hospital. So I honestly don't know. I mean, at the moment, I'm very happy in Chicago, but I've been lucky. I've been happy everywhere I've lived. I've lived in some amazing places. I mean, to be born and grow up in Belfast, and particularly in the times that I did, it might sound weird to say that it was incredible, but it was. I mean, growing up through the Troubles obviously gave us our first album, but it gives you an outlook on life that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. I was lucky enough to come and live in London for 11 years when the band was initially successful, and that was incredibly exciting. I mean, London was a very exciting place to be. I loved living in Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle was probably the place I still think of as home, which is bizarre. But I've been in Chicago now for 16 years, and at the moment can't really imagine myself being anywhere else. So.
And that leads me on
to I'm ducking Rob's question there. I'm not.
Well, it's for you haven't actually made this decision, and that's fine. That's okay. It's good to know that you haven't got the plan already sorted. You haven't got the exit plan sorted. You haven't.
No, not yet. Not yet.
You're not checking out where the exits are when they're doing this. You're sort of saying,
no. But interesting. That's another thing. Even though I'm sort of saying, I'll probably hang up my boots whenever I get to a certain age. I'm still, even if we are talking, and we, sort of, my wife and I do talk occasionally about, well, what about this place? What about there? What about it? The first thing I always ask is, how close to an international airport is it? Because I need to be near an airport for work. And she's like, you're not going to be working, you idiot. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a world where you're not working anymore. It's fine. But hospitals are more important, as you said.
Yeah, but, really. How sad is that? How sad is that?
But it's good that it's not entered your mind in a serious way yet. That's a really good sign. So,
Right.
so we're looking at the future going forward now, not as far as Falling and Breaking the Hip, not that far into the future, but as far as for the next album, tours, that kind of stuff. So you said got about half the album done. Is there any kind of tentative time frame for getting that finished and recording it, released, that kind of thing? Any sort of tentative plans?
Well, I mean, yeah, we were hoping actually to be in a position by the end of this year to have had it finished, but everything's just been so up in the air. I mean, now obviously with the encouraging news with regards to vaccines and stuff, everybody's mind's starting to swing back towards getting back on the road again.
Yeah.
And I don't know how soon that'll be feasible. I mean, we're still hanging on to the thin thread that we can possibly do the March tour. But we genuinely don't know. I mean, we have no concept at all of whether we can or can't. But yeah, going forward, I think that's the one thing that everybody's itching to do is to get back on tour. Obviously, we don't want to do that until it's safe and reasonable to do so. I guess until then, I'll just keep writing. My completely immediate plans, and I may as well plug this since I'm on here, is after I finish speaking to you, I got to go get something to eat, get myself cleaned up, and then head off to the Liars Club here in Chicago. I've got a gig tonight. A gig. We're actually playing.
What?
I know. It's unheard of. There won't be an audience there. Hopefully there'll be an audience online. It's similar to this, but it's every year around Christmas time, I've been involved in a benefit for a local children's hospital here in Chicago, and this year it's normally a bunch of guys who play in other bands, and we all just get together and we play a couple of our own songs, but mainly we're there to have fun for ourselves as well. So it's a bunch of cover versions of bands that we really like, but bands we like when we were growing up. So like I said, if you want to hear Thin Lizzy songs played badly, we're your guys. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It raises a lot of money, and in years past it's been a toy drive, so kids in the hospital actually get toys on Christmas. But this year, obviously, with the whole coronavirus thing, it's basically just designed so that the kids and their families actually get a Christmas dinner, and so it's just all financial donations this year, and that's at katieskids.com. So I've now plugged it.
Absolutely, that's great. I was going to ask you, that's going to be my next question. Where can people get that? I'm sure people will want to tune in.
KT, the letter, KTS, and kids, all one word, .com. And that's online streaming on the Liars Club Chicago YouTube channel from 7:30 Chicago time tonight, which unfortunately is 1:30 in the morning, so where you are, so doubtless you'll all be
be getting warmed up by that point, Jake, I'd say.
That's true. That is true. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's my immediate future. That's the rest of today for me. So.
And Christmas, what's your plans for Christmas?
Same as always. I mean, just sort of, there's just the two of us, so we'll be sat in the house. I might try and organise a Zoom call with my sister and brother-in-law in Ireland, and I know we're speaking to the wife's family on Christmas Eve. But yeah, I mean, I'm still, my mind still goes back to when I was a little kid, and you'd get the train set or whatever, so you'd never leave. You probably wouldn't even leave your pajamas till 2 PM, but you didn't leave the house on Christmas Day, and I'm still very much of that mindset. It's like I don't like leaving the four walls on Christmas Day. So yeah, it's interesting as well, because again, living in America, you get out of the habit of having turkey at Christmas because you've just had it at Thanksgiving. So it's kind of it's more just like a standard Sunday roast, So it's like yeah, so it's same as I try and keep it as traditional as possible. So it's like stay at home, sort of force the wife to watch The Great Escape, and then get up and go watch the football on Boxing Day.
That's it. That's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Well, so basically, we have one of our Switchbox elves has put the link for your gig later on today in the chat.
Oh, that's great.
People can go and click on that and check that out. So good luck with that, and it's a fantastic cause. Well
Thank
done.
you.
And thank you to everybody who's joined us for this. And thank you for all those that have sent us questions and those that have sent us donations. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for everybody who's kind of been a part of this. And thank you especially to Jake Burns, who was, it's been great chatting to you and getting and hearing the stories and stuff, and it's been fantastic to chat to you today. So thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
And well, good luck with getting the album all finished. And and we are going to do. There's actually one question I have to ask you. Final question, because this is about this channel is this show is going to build for younger musicians to help them through. So we had a question from Jay Nelson. What's your advice for improving music writing abilities on the guitar?
That's because that's something I'm still learning.
Do you have any things that break your writer's block when you get it? Do you have any sort of things that you've learned to do, or anything that you kind of is it just taking a break? Is it just do you kind of break on through? How do you do it?
I've tried a million things. I mean, I've tried ridiculous things. Like I once had a dartboard on the wall, and I just wrote chords all around the dartboard and threw darts at it. See if they play those 3 chords, and they're not even in the same key, you idiot. They sound awful. But generally, I try to break out of my comfort zone just for the hell of it, and I'll, go online and find the chords to something really difficult and play those, I don't know, like sort of, a Nat King Cole song or something. That's just totally off the wall from what I would normally, be thinking of. If only because the way those songs are constructed are not the way I would think of them. The thing that plagued me for years was the obvious middle eight. I mean, and I know a lot of punk bands just ignored middle eights altogether, but I was too deeply rooted in, we mentioned Motown and classic pop records earlier. I was too deeply rooted in that to ignore middle eights. But there's obviously, again, as you'll know, and I'm guessing as the guy who asked the question will know, there's the obvious sort of midsection in every key that you'll go to, just sort of, all right, that's the obvious counterpoint to the main melody. And I found that just by the simple expedient of not going to the obvious middle eight, you could change the entire flavor of the song. And that was a big breakthrough. Again, little things like using capos. Suddenly the guitar becomes a totally different instrument because you have to rethink the chord shapes. And I even taught myself to play basic piano just because that would make me think in a different way to approaching songs. I guess think outside the box is the main thing you take away from that, I suppose. I mean, 9 times out of 10 it will sound awful, but the 10th time is magic, and that's the one you're aiming for.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for joining us. It's been absolutely fantastic. And just to say to everybody, thank you for joining in. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please share what we're trying to achieve here with trying to give musicians a platform, trying to create something that's going to be a great place for people to tell a story, people to share their new music, because it's hard for young bands and up and coming musicians to find an audience. So we're trying to create a space where we can do that, where musicians can be a part of it, and people like you, Jake, coming on and giving us your time is so much appreciated, because it helps to build the audience and it helps to support what we're trying to do here, and support the arts in this random year that we've had. So thank you so much.
Strange, yeah. No, you're welcome. Like I said, I've enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with the new album and everything going, and hopefully we'll see you behind the microphone sooner rather than later, and come and see us when you're next over in the UK.
I hope so. Yeah, I'd love to. Take care.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Cheers, Jake.